Welcome to the 3 Slides with series of videos. My name is Ed Lawrence. I'm the founder and principal of Getstart-ed.com, which offers career services, including resumes, cover letters, and assessments to job seekers and career transitioners. In this series, I ask people to show us 3 important slides from their presentation on a specific topic of their choice. Our objective is to present in a brief amount of time the important concepts that will help you land a career or a transition to a new career. In this case, we're doing something a little bit different. Today's guest is Dave Gilman, the founder and president of Cognito. Since 2001, Dave has helped companies achieve the utmost recognition through eye-opening graphic design and brand identity development. His work has been published worldwide in books such as Brand Identity and Logo Design. His tagline, which I just love, is your company incognito? So welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it.
So Dave, before we get to the logos, instead of actual slides for a job or career, I'd like to just find out a bit more about your background. And so you can see I've got some questions here for you, including, well, how did you get started with Cognito?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I guess to give the brief answer is my twin brother and I both went to Westfield State College for graphic design and art. And that ultimately led us into the field of graphic design and getting hired at jobs. And while I was out working in corporate America, for some reason, still don't know where it came from, I just always had a dream about starting my own company. And I became a graphic designer at Boston University within their marketing department, and ended up talking to my boss. And he said, you know what, I've been thinking about starting my own company my whole life. Why don't we just go out there and do it? And so we actually just did it. And then I kind of found myself out on my own, having to run a company and learning a lot of skills in the area of sales and marketing. So it's been quite a journey, but I've loved every moment of it, as there's always new twists and turns and challenges to overcome on a regular and ongoing basis.
Your company name and the tagline that goes with it. How did you arrive at that?
Yeah, so one thing, in the same process that I do with a logo, I do the same with a name, and I usually do that by having a goal. So my goal was I wanted to pick a name that reflected the organization, just like a logo does, where one is a word and one is an image. So I said to myself, I want to pick a name of a company that was short, simple, memorable, differentiated, but also conveyed what I do. Now, that's not really an easy task. I will admit it took me about 8 months just to come up with a name. Some people might pick an afternoon or a couple of days, but I wasn't in any rush because I was still actually working with my business partner at the time. And we kind of knew that he was near retirement and I was just starting out. So I had some time to kind of pick a name as we were kind of parting our ways, and I was going to go off on my own. So I just came up, like with any ideas, I came up with so many bad ideas, but then finally I came across the word cognition somewhere. And then that led me to think of the word cognito. And when I looked it up in the dictionary, incognito is defined as with one's identity concealed, meaning hidden. And I then all of a sudden realized, well, wow, that's what I'm all about. I'm about revealing identities in a really memorable and distinct way, as opposed to being hidden and kind of lurking in the background and not really being seen. So I realized that absolutely nails my mission. It's simple, it's differentiated, and it's unique. So it checked off all the boxes, and I was so excited about the name. And a lot of people will still come up to me sometimes 15 years later and say, oh, I remember you because of the name of your company. So it's just a little bit reinforcement that the name resonates with other people as well.
Oh, that's awesome. So what's next, or what are you working on now?
So one thing I'm working on, in one thing in the field of graphic design, there's a lot of kind of areas that designers go in, meaning that they'll work on websites, work on logos, some brand identity, some will do marketing collateral, some will do social media designs. And so my main area is brand identity, logo development, and the design of marketing collateral, but there's also Photoshop. I used to be a Photoshop instructor for about 5 years to continuing ed classes in Newton. And so I still have a passion of working in Photoshop and doing Photoshop manipulation. You don't hear that a lot about that in the field of graphic design, but it is still prevalent. So I'm working with a major retailer right now and helping them going from the B2B market to the B2C market and doing a lot of Photoshop work in which I'm actually taking their designs and putting them on other designs as a kind of like a fictitious representation of a prototype that they might be putting out in the market. And due to confidentiality, I can't really reveal who that company is right now. So that's why I'm kind of keeping it on the down low.
Well, we wouldn't want you to reveal any, confidential details. So let's get to the logos that you are allowed to talk about.
Oh, certainly.
Let's see the first one you gave us, Heel Incorporated.
Yeah, so interestingly, the owner of this company shared a similar belief that I do about logos, in the fact that they really shouldn't look like your competitor, or they should look really unique and different. And one thing that the owner of this company realized, that this is a medical marijuana company, and most of what they do is distribute capsules and pills with a mission of helping people who suffer with such things as cancer and other related diseases and things that have been tested that medical marijuana helps out. So after kind of doing some questioning, they said that they want kind of like a logo that conveyed like empathy, that had a hint of healing and other aspects of what they were offering. So, but also they said they don't want to look like, every other company out there. So I came up with hearts, Band-Aids, and capsules all kind of integrated in the design. And the primary focus was the heart. They said that they want to be a company all about healing, love, and compassion for those who are suffering. So that was kind of my primary inspiration.
That's so awesome.
Oh,
We ready for the next one, or
I'm
anything
ready.
else here? Okay. The Vet.
So this too, the owner of this company actually is a financial planner who moved on to start a nonprofit company to help veterans who are suffering with PTSD. So ironically, to the last logo, this too, kind of the owner wanted a logo to convey warmth, love, compassion, helping, and healing. And I guess I'm showing these logos because of just the profound story that's told in these images. And similar to the Heal logo, the Vet logo, there's three main primary images that I wanted to convey. Is like patriotism, suffering, and compassion. So I kind of said to myself, well, what represents compassion? And I'm like, a heart. It's all about love. And so it's slightly hidden and done intentionally, but there's a heart right in front of you. It's in the shape of an American flag, and it's also a curled over Band-Aid. If you ever look at the shape of a Band-Aid, even drawn on their own packages, or if they're ever like represented as an icon, you kind of see that like rounded curved edge on both sides. And you also see those round dots. So I put the round dots as opposed to stars because it's more to represent a Band-Aid, where you obviously see the American flag. But as a lot of people looked at it, they said, oh, I didn't even see this myself. They said, oh, I see a blue teardrop in there. I'm like, well, that wasn't really, that wasn't intentional. That was just part of the American flag. But I really wanted people to see the Band-Aid and the heart. And this logo was so moving that it actually brought somebody in the organization to tears, because them not really knowing, when this was first presented as a concept, they fell in love with the idea, knowing that it was the exact icon or image that they wanted to represent to a population of veterans who suffer, and they're like, this is the solution. So I was really happy with this mark.
Wow. And I recall your next slide sort of sums up all these elements you just talked about.
Oh, yes, this is actually something I recently just quickly called a storyscape. So kind of people actually can kind of at a quick glance see the kind of the story or the meaning of the elements that I've put into this.
And then you mentioned the teardrop was actually, in a sense, offered by the clients or the customer, where you didn't even realize you had incorporated it in there from their perspective.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when people look at things, you know, I've learned that we all see things differently. So when people look at that, most people instantly saw the heart and the American flag. I would say maybe like 6 or 7 out of 10 people would say they would see the Band-Aid. Usually would have to say, well, what do you see in there? I'm like, there's one main element that I wanted to put in there. And then they take about 10 seconds. They're like, oh, I think I see a Band-Aid. I'm like, yes, exactly. So it's all, sometimes it's up to personal interpretation, but a lot of it is strategy and what I really wanted people to see, and they primarily see that.
Wow. And we've got one more. I'm so interested in hearing the story for the next one, which is Burwell beans.
So this is the latest brand identity and logo design that I've worked on. And I set a goal to focus on 2 main elements in this. Now, Burwell it's a place that represents new beginnings. And so the owner wanted to kind of have a message that when you come in and try his specialty coffee, that it's all about kind of a transformation or new beginnings. So again, I asked myself, well, what represents new beginnings? And I said, oh, well, butterfly, because a butterfly transforms from one thing into a completely new thing. And then when I realized that a butterfly could be simplified and do 2 bees, then I started doing all sorts of sketches and nothing was really coming up. But then somehow or another, when I kind of just took like a different approach with working up the butterfly and the bees, did I kind of come up with this really simplified, modern looking kind of icon. And that's what they're all about. It's like they wanted to actually even set up a coffee shop where it's all about really modern, clean, kind of a timeliness looking icon. And so again, once I kind of came up with the bees and the butterfly, I actually tweaked the design because I realized I could make it look more like a drop of water, which actually helped to give this look. And it also was all about like location or like where he's at. So it was actually, I believe, my customer who said, oh, it also looks like a GPS location. We're all about like the location of where we're at. And then somebody, of course, said a window. So, I mean, I didn't really want to kind of really push the window and the GPS. What I really want to do is the 2 bees, the butterfly, and the drops. And so the other last ones are secondary, but it's interesting how people can look at it and see different things and kind of almost interact with the logo.
And it makes your work is just so almost thought-provoking, and discussion worthy. That's why they're memorable. Wow, this is great. So I want to thank you very much, Dave, for offering these logos to us. So now everybody, I hope all our viewers have learned so much about logos. And folks, if you're a small company, even a one-person shop, medium-sized company, or Dave has worked with large corporations, here's his contact information. Dave, are you allowed to say any of the big companies that anyone might have heard of?
Yeah, I could mention one other logo that had a really profound effect to a lot of people who saw it was the Kendall Square logo. I was hired as the very first logo designer in their history to actually represent and design a logo to represent them in an iconic, symbolic manner. So I designed a kind of an overhead view of people coming together in close proximity to give a technological feel, because that's what they wanted to be all about. So that's one success story that I have in my arsenal of logos that had another story in there and people that really resonated really well with.
Thank you so much, Dave.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ed.
And I want to thank you, our viewers, for watching. We're planning a few more videos going forward. And if any of you would even like to be profiled, contact me. Job seekers, if you need any advice, feel free to check out my blog at Getstart-ed.com. And just one final thanks for Dave Gilman for joining us today.
You're welcome, and thank you, Ed.